Be sure to check out our sponsor, the War for the Tower podcast. Also, Jeff Richardson does Shattered Worlds RPG, an RPG that he invented, and an arts and interview show called Everything is Awesome. You can find all of them by searching War for the Tower, Shattered Worlds, or Everything is Awesome on your podcatcher. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, a song of ice and fire. 2. The co-host switcheroo. The rereading. Return to Westeros. HBO Spoiler Edition. Uncut, uncensored, and too hot for television. Bringing you the greatest hits from 98. Call in with your requests never. In this episode, we are covering chapters 10 and 11. We've got a new POV, folks. Davos and Theon. And in case you didn't remember from the show, Theon sucks ass.
Oh my god, he really does.
Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king.
Fuck the king.
I fucking read that chapter. I was like, is this motherfucker also terrible in the book? Like, I wanted something else entirely.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I am Rashawn, and I'm so upset. I just said, fuck introductions. Let's just get into it. You guys.
Theon, I knew that Theon's chapter was gross, but I didn't remember. Like, I remember that back in the day, before I had gotten woke at all, I thought Theon was disgusting. So I was like, oh, it's got to be really, really bad. And it is. It's quite bad.
This is the first time we get his POV. Mm-hmm. And this is what we get.
Yep.
There's no, like, easing into how gross and disgusting he is. How weak-willed and weak of character he is. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's just right there, laid out for you on an iron platter.
Get it?
See what I did there?
Get it? Get it? She said iron, everybody.
It's so bad. It's so bad, and I don't want any more of it.
I feel you,
and I know that is not an option. I know more is coming. But I just want to go on record as saying that I am less than enthused about the prospect.
Yeah, all right, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about a guy I do like.
Yeah, let's talk about Davos. Davos, the guy who's like, yeah, I'm lowborn, but someday my kids will marry your kids, so haha, fuck you. Which I really do appreciate the pettiness on behalf of, like, future generations. It's not even about him, you know? It's just like, nah, but we're still gonna get ours eventually,
it's
though.
True.
So.
It's like some real aspirational type shit, you know? Yeah, which is really, like, what our whole entire thing that we've got going on in the West is all about. Like, your life might suck now, but in, like, 4 generations, you'll be okay.
Right.
And then 4 generations later, you're just like, this is not okay.
And that's sort of like, he keeps being really optimistic, but then he keeps remembering if Stannis doesn't win, then this isn't going to actually mean anything.
But I do appreciate his constant observation of when he's talking about the other lords, when he's talking about how his sons behave in a way that's, he says at one point it's like his sons have either forgotten or intend to forget that they're lowborn. where Davos never ever forgets for a second. He's like constantly aware of exactly where he came from. He is aware of how the other highborn people regard him, which is not very well. That if Stannis were to lose power or I don't want to say disown, but pull his support from Davos, that those people would turn on him in a second. Yep. They don't have any respect for him. And he is very, very clear about that.
Yes.
And I always like a character who is clever, first of all.
Self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware, who is mindful. You know, he's so careful. His whole chapter is about remembering his place, remembering not to speak out of turn. You know, being very careful with his words. Not when he gets to have a conversation with Stannis, it's at the end. It's different. It's much more, truthful and honest and blunt. But before we get to that ending, everything around him is like when he's talking to Salador.
Salador San.
And
I think is how you say
he
it,
is reminding himself, well, this guy can just say whatever he wants to say. But that's not me. I gotta, I'm in a public place. I have to be mindful of what I'm saying here. I don't know. I liked him on the show. I really like this character in the book so far. So this was a pleasant chapter to read.
Agreed. Yeah, it's interesting. Did you listen to the audiobook for this one?
No time.
I have to remember to ask you that every time so that I can, bring that into the conversation because, again, don't really love the audiobook for this. And the voice that he does for Davos is like a straight up like pirate voice.
Oh no.
Which is pretty much what he does for any character that's meant to be salts of the earth, is he has them sound weirdly piratey. And I don't feel like that's...
What does he do for Balon's voice?
It's similar, I feel like. I'm trying to remember because apparently it didn't make much of an impression on me.
Oh, okay. All right.
But like Davos, when he... Silence. Remember where you are. Like, that kind of fucking thing. Maester Crescent would have stopped this. What else could it be? Like, that fucking... It is too much. I just can't... I can't believe that the guy that we think is savvy is going to talk like... that.
like a cereal box mascot.
Honestly. So I found that very off-putting, especially considering that there are some actors from the show that are just so great at their character that they embed in my brain, and now when I read, I see them. And the actor who played Davos is one of those people for me. I see him when I think Davos now, which doesn't happen with everybody, and he just... did not have that energy. He was a humble man of humble origin. Right? But he wasn't a cartoon.
He wasn't like a swashbuckler.
Exactly.
Like, it's such a... it's funny that you mention that, too, because it's so important, or it seems to be very important, that we are reminded, and that Davos remembers that he is not just lowborn, but that he was a smuggler. Right? He wasn't a pirate. He was a smuggler. That is an entirely different energy. That is a quiet, stealthy, low key. I'm not drawing attention to myself. He's not going to be walking around talking like that.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes.
But I can't do the audiobooks while I'm working anymore because there's just too much going on at work, and I realized that I'm not mindful of what chapter is being read, and I'll fuck around and be like 4 hours later, and also like the chapter's over, and I realize I was listening to it, but I retained zero of what just happened. So.
Yeah, that's definitely I'm pretty good with that, but I have definitely had that happen. Also, I'll have that happen with like certain podcasts and stuff. It's like, I have rewound and listened to the same 10-minute stretch 4 times and somehow tuned out at the exact same point every time, and I still don't know what happened. There's nothing like those moments where you're just like, what even is my brain? I thought I had some control here, but clearly not.
I will say for the Davos chapter, a week ago, because we had to miss last week because of a family thing, but I tried to listen to the audiobook, and I did not make it past what in the book would be the very first page.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Before you, like, tuned out?
I was just like, oh yeah, this isn't gonna work. Like, I don't know what this voice is. I don't know what he's trying to say, coupled with trying to, like, listen while I was working, and I was just like, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work.
But Rashawn, don't you want to know what the characters sound like? God, the other fucking one is Varys, who he has Varys talk like he's got a mouthful of jello. And it's like, yes, my lord, I would never... What the fuck? Genuinely, what the fuck? I think that's supposed to be like, oh, this is what a fat guy sounds like.
Oh,
I think, but I don't. Just like, he doesn't make fucking Samwell sound like that. So,
oh my God.
I don't know. What do I know?
Well, maybe he's also doing this weird, low key. I don't know why I don't want to say effeminate, but this less masculine kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
With Varys. Ugh, I don't know. This guy's choices are all very suspect.
They're real weird. I just would love to know the producer of this audiobook, like, what was running through their mind.
I mean...
or who was in charge. Because it feels like nobody was in charge.
To hear tell it, the internets have told me that this guy was friends with George Martin.
But, like, somebody should have been in charge.
Yeah, I think that everybody was like, well, George likes him, so it's fine. Or, I don't want to be the one to tell George this guy's terrible. So, that's what happens when the boss's kid comes to work with you. Ask me how I know.
What do you mean, Rashawn? How do you know? What?
Not that it's summertime and we have a million interns who all have last names that are strikingly similar. Let me shut up. All right, let's get into this. Go to fucking bed. Bitch got to get up early to go do some shit, and it's been a long day.
I'm sorry if you guys can hear. I don't know what's going on outside, but I have that neighbor that's not great, and it sounds like he's just lighting fireworks in the backyard.
Oh my God, I haven't heard about him in ages. I thought he moved. It's been so long.
No, he's still there. He's still running up and down my street back and forth.
Yelling at that guy that we Googled?
I haven't seen him yelling on the street like I had. He has been yelling in the yard. The
last story was when you told him to shut the fuck up. And, I legit haven't heard any other stories since then.
Yeah, he's sort of piped down. I think that he could sense that I was just not the one. Because he's not mad at me. He's mad at Sean Polero. And guys, it's a long story, but Sean Polero appears to be a real person. But I don't know if the grievance is real. It's an odd situation. So, anyway, yeah, this guy, it sounds like there's like a popping sound outside, like he's lighting off fireworks. I don't know.
That's great. That's what you want.
Girl, I had no fucking idea. Look, guys, we've all talked about how with the pandemic, time doesn't mean anything anymore. But honestly, it is shocking to me that today is the last day of June. Mm-hmm. This weekend is the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. I had no clue. I didn't even think about it. I just saw a post from my town center today on Facebook that was like, don't miss the fireworks on the water, for the lake display. And I was like, oh yeah, God, when is that anyway? And then I saw it was literally 4 days from today. And I just I went and looked at the count. I was like, that's not right. I genuinely thought they were wrong. That's how completely fucking out of it I am.
It's not me.
You know, like, just that kind of confidence. Like, oh yeah, that can't be right. It's like when you look in the mirror and you just see your own face, but you're like, well, clearly that's not my face. Like, time has just done its own thing, and you're still stuck in some other era. Bygone.
That bygone was really unnecessarily rude. You didn't have to put that on the end.
Anyway, so this opens this chapter with the burning of the statues of the seven.
Yeah, it's a bold statement being made.
Yeah,
we are fuck you and your gods is what's happening, and people are uncomfortable, which I think is fair. Because that is, I mean, it's one thing to get on Facebook and be like, God's not real. But it's another thing, you know, to, like, watch somebody burn the fucking, you know, I don't know, what do you call them?
Statues?
Well, but more like not just a statue, but like
icons?
It's a icon. There you go, the religious icons of your faith. You know, that's a whole different kind of energy, and these are people who are being forced to abide this because to not do it is to be disloyal to their king. And we get a little bit of information that there were a few people who were not thrilled with this and rushed to defend the sept, and they did not prevail. And
indeed,
some didn't make it out, and the ones that did are in the dungeon. So these people have to sort of stand there and act like this is okay. And it's not for some of them. And it's I mean, I feel like it's asking a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really interesting, too, because, like, as it turns out, when he talks to Stannis later, Stannis is just like,
exactly,
I'm just going to throw in with whatever fucking works for me.
Yeah, he comes right out and admits that, one, he doesn't believe in the old gods, and he doesn't believe in his new god either, and he doesn't really care one way or the other.
Yeah.
His thinking and his strategy about Melisandre, I thought, was really, really important, and I think he's right that the fear that she inspires is worth keeping her around for. But yeah, he doesn't care about this. This is like all performative for him. That story he tells at the end too about his fucking little sad ass bird. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, there was something about that felt so much more humiliating than the fucking story itself.
I'm sorry. Because it's actually like a really sweet story. He's got this gentle little bird that he loves, that he's nursed, and he wanted to like be great and powerful, and it's not. It never really takes off and soars in the way that he had hoped. Meanwhile, Robert's got this big like aggro bird that's a weird name.
Oh, I just pictured this bird that has a headband, like one of those terry cloth headbands and a muscle shirt, and it's just like, oh yeah, I got this, brother.
Do you even
He's got a mustache.
That's Robert's bird. But
oh god,
so it is a really like bittersweet little story, and it I think. I don't know how much it's supposed to be telling us about Stannis as a child, because we had heard from Crescent that Stannis had always been kind of a hard, rigid, even as a child, wasn't like really filled with like laughter and joy and shit. But this little bitty story kind of shows us like a tenderness to Stannis, and then to see his bird, or through this story, the kind of humiliation that he felt that his bird didn't perform in the way that he wanted. And then he ends up saying something to Davos, like, this time I'm going to throw in with the bigger hawk, or whatever he says. But I forget how we got to the bird.
Oh, because we were talking about how, like, practical this is. It's not about faith for him.
Exactly. So that's what he tells him. Like, I'm just going to go with the stronger bird this time. Like, I'm not going to fuck around with this weak shit. His wife,
bold
on
move,
the other
Cotton.
hand,
Let's see if it pays off.
That's sad because we know it doesn't.
Well, we don't, though. We know what happens on the show.
That's true. You're right. I don't really know how this is going to work out for him in the book. But his wife, sorry for squeaky chair, his wife is 100% all in on this.
Yeah.
And it is her men. I will admit to being confused initially, because as Davos is talking, he keeps talking about the Queen's men did this and the Queen's men did that. And I was like, huh? And then I realized, he's talking about Stannis' wife. And it's her men that take down the guys that showed up to try to protect the Sept and keep them from burning the gods and all that stuff.
Right.
She is really 100% into this new religion and this ceremony. She's praying along. She knows all the words to all the songs. I don't know when the last time you were in church, but I'm going to be in church tomorrow. And people are going to be looking at me. And I'm going to be pretending I know the words to a lot of songs and a lot of prayer.
I have never known the words to a single, like, hymn that I can think of.
No?
I know the words to lots of, like, old classic Christmas carols. But that's the best I could do. I know, what's the fucking one with the I was lost, but now I'm found.
Amazing Grace?
That's the one. I know that one. Allegedly. And that's it. That's what I got.
It feels like you know that one, right?
I think I do. Yeah. And I know some of the goofy shit that my dad used to listen to when I was a kid, because he had a bunch of like Christian a cappella stuff. Yeah, and it was all like old white guys who were doing the barbershop quartet sort of thing. Oh my God, I will never. You ever have a song that you're like, nobody will believe me that this song existed, and I have no idea what the name of it was or anything, and so I can't look it up and figure it out. But it was some song. It was a song basically about like how your house is falling down around you, but you don't need to worry about it because God will save you. But it was like, boom, boom, ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. Ain't you gonna need this house no longer? Ain't you gonna need this house no more? Ain't got time to fix the shingles. Ain't got time to fix the door. Like that kind of thing. That's as much as I can remember. And it was very catchy. I will give them that. But damn, listening to just that shit growing up, it was that, and then my mom would play Madonna. It was a real whiplash situation. So that's what I had.
Oh, God. Your dad made some interesting choices.
He did, though. Like, it wasn't even gospel music in Spanish, which one would really think. I don't know why not, but maybe he didn't. Maybe he was into the barbershop quartet thing. My dad was a real mystery sometimes. Anyway, if anybody knows that song, let me know. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh my goodness. So this is how that starts with the burning of the. I think earlier I was.
Can't believe we've been talking this long, and this is
right,
still where we're at.
Which
Jesus,
is
I'm sorry,
terrible.
everybody.
And there is a whole sort of like climax to this, which involves Stannis putting on a glove.
I forgot about this. I just read this, but I forgot about this.
And pulling the flaming sword out from, I think it's been thrust through the breast of the mother, and he pulls it out while it's still on fire, and it's very dramatic. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that he had to put on a glove to do it, so I mean, but okay. He low-key catches on fire and has to be, like, patted, cinders.
He's like, fucking fuck. Like, as he grabs it, he, like, curses because his glove catches. I just love that. And I just keep picturing Joe Pesci in Home Alone.
And, it's for a second, if you're not, like, right up close. Mm-hmm. It's probably pretty impressive. And, she's chanting and singing in these languages that no one knows except for when she comes down to the common tongue. And there's this big flaming sword. And as soon as he's done with it, though, he, puts it in the snow. And then he's like, okay, we're going to wrap up here. It's time to go. and Davos is looking. He kind of, hangs out a little bit afterwards. And it's just like a burnt fucking sword looking pitiful in the snow.
Yep.
And he has a great line that I thought I was going to highlight, but then I didn't. But it's just basically like, look at this shitty ass sword. It's like that's the energy he's bringing to this moment.
Rashawn, will you rewrite all these books for me, please?
But it's such a good moment because, there's all this there's been all of this emotion and display and whatever, and people are kind of afraid. Some people are really having an internal conflict about watching their gods be burned and not having the power or the courage or whatever to stand up to stop it. All this is happening, and I was just kind of in the cut, participating enough that it's apparent that he is loyal to his king, but also watching this shit and just being like, would you look at this? So finally,
I do love too that Davos has to sort of weigh how much he owes Stannis. At one point when everybody's chanting along, he's like, do I have to do this? Do I owe him that much? Or can I just sort of observe, and that's cool?
I love this. You're right. He has this, because one of the things he reminds us of, too, is, I don't know if it's a reminder or if it's more of the first time we're hearing it. We had already known about how Stannis had low-key pardoned Davos. He took a couple fingers, but then also let him rise to a higher station and blah 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 blah. But but he remarks here about how if it hadn't been for Stannis's grace, then his kids, or at least this one son in particular, would have been sent to the wall, and how he is indebted to Stannis for that mercy as well.
Right, so, I forgot about that.
So he really definitely feels a real, and I believe it's 100% sincere, I really do, sense of gratitude to Stannis. And also, he seems to have a real respect for him as well. It's not just that, I owe this guy because he saved my life, but he seems to respect how Stannis behaves, how he runs his affairs, that he's a stand-up guy. He's a guy of his word, he's a, he's a...
Honorable?
Honorable is the word, thank you. He's an honorable man, and Davos respects that and admires that. And I feel like that's very clear. Even when he's, looking at this light show like these motherfuckers is wilding. But he's still, you know, his real respect for Stannis keeps him from behaving in any kind of way that would be embarrassing or disloyal, you know, or anything like that. And I think that, you know, I like that in a man.
Yeah, agreed. The pragmatism.
Excuse me.
And I mean, I don't like to say, like, knowing what hand feeds you, because that makes it sound a lot more
transactional.
Like, for personal gain, which it's not even for gain, it's out of gratitude, you know? But, yeah, definitely agree. And I can't even be mad at Stannis for just being like, I'm going to throw in with a different god, because these other gods ain't do shit for me.
I mean, we do it all the time.
Yep.
You know, people are always, you know, finding new faiths and changing religions or finding something that works better for them in their lives. I mean, they're not necessarily setting the old shit on fire, you know, literally. But in a lot of ways, they do it, you know, I guess figuratively would be the word I would use.
Have you read the Poisonwood Bible? Can't remember.
I have not.
I covered that for the book club for those who go back to the old shit. And for those who follow the old gods. But,
the old pods.
the old pods and the new. Oh my god, how have I not done that yet? Alright, that's the next postcard. I have to figure out how I'm going to do it, but I'll do it. This month's postcard is lots of brains doing stuff. So, evidently I have all kinds of ideas. But anyway, yeah, there's a part in Poisonwood Bible, because the whole thing is about a man who is a missionary and basically, like, drags his family with him. And he is trying to preach to, I think they're I'm trying to even remember what country they are in. But they are somewhere in Africa. And the people seem to be getting on board with Christianity, and he's feeling himself like he really did something here. And eventually, somebody sort of, without realizing what kind of offense he will take, they explain it as, no, these people are just, they're insuring themselves. They're not stopping worshiping their gods. They're also worshiping your God in case that God does happen to be right. But they're not forsaking their own shit. It's just, you know, they're trying to cover all their bases.
I was going to say they're hedging their bets.
Exactly. And he's just so, like, offended at this idea. But, you know, he isn't somebody who has to worry about the weather killing his children. You know, he doesn't, like, he's not in a position where that makes sense, constantly being afraid of fate, basically.
Right.
So, yeah. So, okay. We can, I think, jump ahead to him talking to Salador San. Fucking Salador is like,
listen,
he owes me 30,000 gold dragons, and I want to fuck Cersei.
Right, and he keeps being like, yeah. He's giving me a lot of promises. Yeah. It looks good on paper, like, but I have yet to actually be paid for anything. I also, this description of what he is wearing is, is just it is something else.
You want to read it?
I mean, no, I don't want to read it. You can read it.
I'm trying to find the exact spot. So I have him, the Weathered Little Inn. Here it is. So he's eating grapes from a wooden bowl. Today, he wore a flashing cloth of silver with dagged sleeves so long the ends of them pooled on the floor. His buttons were carved jade monkeys, and atop his wispy white curls perched a jaunty green cap decorated with a fan of peacock feathers.
Guys, this is somebody who talks like a pirate.
I love it so much.
You know, I don't know what voice is going on in the audiobook for this character. But
he doesn't have a, like, he's got more of a lordly voice.
See?
With, like, a little hint of an accent that I don't really know what it is.
This man doesn't know what he's doing.
He truly doesn't.
Because
in the show, Salvador San is black, and it's sort of played almost like he's from the Caribbean, like that kind of accent, I think.
That's what I remember. And also, I don't remember this scene particularly in the show, like this meeting in the end. The only time I remember seeing him is meeting on what appeared to be like a very secret kind of cove situation where people weren't supposed to know he was dealing with Davos. Like, it was very, like, undercover.
Right.
And he's dressed like a random guy. You know, like his shirt's a little billowy, but that was the style at the time. So that's
a shame.
So if this happened on the show, this meeting, this outfit, I have no memory of it, which is a damn shame.
That is. I think it didn't, like, not in this way, but so Davos sits down and he starts talking about the Red Priests have a great temple on Lys. Always they are burning this and burning that, crying out to their lore. They bore me with their fires. Soon they will bore King Stannis too, it is to be hoped. And as we've said, Davos is like, yeah, he gets to say this shit, but I have to be really careful. So eventually he's like, so what god do you worship? And he's like, Stannis. It's like, that's a pretty good one, actually. That was a solid.
And he tells him this story, because they start talking about the sword.
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because they switch, and they start talking about, like, they talk about the temple in Lys, and they have that conversation, and then they start talking about the money that he's owed. They talk a little bit about what's going on in King's Landing and whether or not they could take it. Mm-hmm. And then they start talking about Renly, and then all of a sudden he just says, "Oh, and that sword was not Lightbringer, just so you know." And Davos is like, wait, what?
Right, I love that. Davos just has this moment of, I thought you didn't believe, how do you even know what that means? What is that? Because Davos clearly doesn't know what Lightbringer is, like, supposed to be other than this massive symbol. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it turns out, a story behind it.
Yeah, and it's pretty grim, guys. Mm-hmm. It's pretty grim. Yeah, there's this Azor Ahai?
Correct. Well,
tries to...
Maybe, but it's how I say it.
It's
yes.
as good as it's going to get, is what it is.
Exactly.
But yeah, so he's trying to make this sword, and at first it's like 30 or 40 nights. I think it's 30. And it looks great, but it shatters when he tries to put it in water. So then he does like 50 days... tries to temper it by plunging it into the heart of a lion, which, is that even a thing? But
what do you like? You mean, does that temper a sword?
Like, does it? I mean, I guess,
I would imagine not.
But it doesn't work. And then finally, after toiling 100 days and 100 nights, basically he ends up murdering his wife, and that is the thing that forges this great sword. Because there's a sacrifice involved, because that's always necessary, because that's how the gods get down. And
I love how he's like, all right, sweetie, hey, come here. Would you hold your shirt open and just know I love you a lot, okay? Mm-hmm. And then just fucking drives it through her chest.
Yeah. And also...
take it like a compliment, God.
Look, listen. It says... the story says that her cry of anguish and ecstasy...
Yep.
left the crack across the face of the moon. I'm sorry, her what now?
She orgasmed.
Basically, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because of his big sword.
Yeah. Yeah. She's almost like, it's okay that he murdered her because it felt really good that one time. Mm-hmm. Or almost implying that, not that she was complicit or that she... gave consent, but that somehow she's okay with it.
Right,
Exactly. Because the end result is worth it. And you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, So, yeah, basically he's like, just be glad that it's not the real sword. Because look what he would have had to do to, get it. And
I love when Davos is thinking about his wife. And he's like, oh, she got a cute face and saggy titties. I love that bitch. And I was just like, I guess. I'm sure he means it, but I would not be I would not be satisfied at that mental description.
No. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, meh. It's really close to true, though.
Oh, God.
But, Davos is like, oh, that's a lot to sacrifice. If that's the cause, I don't want to be a hero.
Yeah. Agreed, man. There's a lot of things talked about with heroes, and it never seems like any of them is. And then their life was good. It's always like, they sacrificed everything, they did stuff for other people, and then they died a horrible death.
Yeah, like that's, I'll pass. There's also, throughout this conversation with him, a lot of Tyrion slander based on him,
Yep.
That because
he's like, oh yeah, he sent him to King's Landing to scare everyone off with his ugly face. Yeah, I was like, okay, peacock hat guy.
We're gonna dress him up as a clown and pinch his cheeks with the tips of our swords and make him dance for us. It's all, from what I can tell, not so much because he's a Lannister and we hate those guys, but a lot of it just seems to be centered on the idea that Tyrion is like a freak and doesn't deserve respect whatsoever under any circumstances. Definitely. And it's like kind of gross. But I feel like this is probably exactly what the majority of the world would be saying about Tyrion behind closed doors. It's definitely what Tyrion, his experience, and has told us that he suspects. This is how people talk about him. And I guess he's right, because, I mean, he's just got a lot of energy for Tyrion throughout this little conversation.
It's true. I think, is that like most of their conversation? I feel like?
Yeah, they talk about, basically he leaves at this point. He's hungry now. He wants his money. He wants to know when they're going to be leaving, and that's like the main information. And he's just like, that's when he's like, tell Stannis it's going to be another 30,000. And he swaggers from the inn.
I love it. Love that energy.
Yeah, that leaves Davos thinking for a while. He thinks about like his wife and her poor sagging boobs, which, and he gets called. Someone shows up and tells him that Stannis wants to see him right away.
So here comes the letter.
Yeah. Which
Davos cannot read. I had forgotten about the fact that he couldn't read. And in the show, they have like Myrcella, or not Myrcella. That's Joffrey's sister. What is Stannis' daughter's name?
I don't know.
Oh my god, I am such a bad
Shireen?
girl. Thank you.
I cannot believe I remember that, you guys. You guys know how bad my memory is.
I just like, wow, that really completely fled my memory. But yeah, she teaches him, so I don't know how I forgot that.
The
Maester has to read it to him.
Yeah, there's a run-in he has with some guy who's like really nice to him.
Oh, right.
And he is just like, this is very suspicious. It's Sir Axel Florent, who has really big ears.
Yeah, he inherited the Florent ears.
And I guess that Stannis' wife has it as well. He doesn't come right out and say it, but I feel like that's the implication.
If you were to say like your family has a physical trait that people would recognize in you, what would it be? I don't know what my family's would be. I feel like my chin.
Yeah, I mean, like, if my immediate family, like my mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, we all got big ass heads. So yeah, there's that. And I feel like that's as far as I want to go with that. I don't want to find out anything else.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So, because apparently, like, the whole thing with the Frey is nobody has any chin. That's the Frey.
Oh, that's right.
And then the Starks, it's that they have long faces. I can't remember what other ones we've got. We've got the Lannisters with their golden hair. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of right now. But I just, sort of an interesting thing to imagine a whole family that has one sort of physical attribute that everybody seems to have at least a little bit of. I find that interesting.
Yeah. I also think that at least for these books, there's like so much fucking incest happening that like these recessive genes are going to be more prominent. So like, if there's a bad chin situation and you got two of them getting together and they're having a kid, there's going to just be more bad chin.
So Stannis has the Maester read this note that he is planning to have put up everywhere or read aloud in certain cases. He doesn't want to do the reading aloud. Like, I think Davos mentions it, but he's like, that is a little bit too dangerous.
He ends up agreeing to it and sending knights out with Davos, but he's not like initially he is against it, but
right.
he ends up giving in and agreeing to, if they're going to try to reach the common people, the majority of them are not going to be able to read any letters you tack up. So
here's the letter. All men know me for the true-born son of Steffan Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, by his lady wife Cassana of House Estermont. I declare upon the honor of my house that my beloved brother Robert, our late king, left no true-born issue of his body, the boy Joffrey, the boy Tommen, and the girl Myrcella being abominations born of incest between Cersei Lannister and her brother Jaime the Kingslayer. By right of birth and blood, I do this day lay claim to the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros. Let all true men declare their loyalty, done in the light of the Lord, under the sign and seal of Stannis of House Baratheon, the first of his name, King of the Andals and Rhoynar, and the First Men, and Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. And Stannis is like, make it Sir Jaime the Kingslayer. And I was like, okay.
This is like, because he's like, for propriety's sake, like, no matter what he's done, he's still a knight. Mm-hmm. But also, we're going to call him Kingslayer, because,
he's gonna do both, okay. and then, I don't know that we ought to call Robert my beloved brother either. And the guy says, it's a courtesy, a lie. Take it out. And I was like, oh, this guy, Jesus Christ.
A harmless courtesy. And he is like, we will have none of those. And then, it's, he just, this is what he's doing. And he, starts talking about what he wants Davos to do. And him and his boys are going to go to these different areas, take hundreds and hundreds of these letters. Hundreds of ravens are going to go. And after he's done, they talk about like having knights come. Davos wants to have a quiet word, but he doesn't want to like ask for it and be rude. He is not here for this new fucking Maester. He is not here for this person. I don't think it's this person's fault. This Pylos kid.
No,
but Davos is really feeling a way about what happened.
He says something to him like, I can't look at the chain around his neck without thinking about Maester Crescent. And I genuinely wanted to be like, look, Davos, I get it, but like, what do you think he's going to do? At this point, it's too late, man. Crescent's dead. What are you going to tell him? I mean, it's not really fair how he died, because he had been intending to poison Melisandre, and it just sort of backfired somehow, because like the chapter starts with Davos being like, he knew what happened, and somehow Melisandre just was protected by her god.
Yeah.
But just even bringing it up at this point, I'm like, doesn't feel like there's any point to this, Davos. Just don't. But he can't help it, because he's feeling sort of defensive and protective of this old maester, I guess.
I wonder, too, like, if he... I don't have anything to base this on, because he literally just explains it as saying, you know, he's still in mourning. But, but like, Stannis is like, what do you need to say to me that you can't say in front of him? And I wonder if he does this, it's difficult for me because I'm mourning thing, because that's a better alternative than suggesting that Stannis has picked somebody who is not fit for the job, or maybe for whatever reason isn't trustworthy. Like, I don't know. But I only think that because I agree with your point. Like, why would you talk about, oh, it's so hard for me, the mourning, you know, to someone like Stannis, who you know very well.
True. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, and then halfway through that conversation, Davos is like, and by the way, Pylos is the least of it.
He asks, what did the lords make of your letter? Celtigar pronounced it admirable. If I showed him the contents of my privy, he would declare that admirable as well. The others bobbed their heads up and down like a flock of geese, all but Valerian, who said that steel would decide the matter, not words on parchment, as if I had never suspected.
Oh, he doesn't appreciate that.
The others take my lords, I'll hear your views. Your words were blunt and strong, and true, yet you have no proof of this incest no more than you did a year ago. And he tries to be like, all you gotta do is look at Edric Storm, who is one of his byblows. And we find out that fucking Robert got this girl pregnant in Stannis' wedding bed.
Yeah, now see, when Eddard remembers this story, does he tell us that part?
I don't think Eddard, does he talk about Edric Storm?
I remember Eddard saying he knew that Robert had at least one bastard when they were fairly young. My assumption is that we're talking about the same kid here, but I don't know.
Okay, maybe that is.
I don't remember if he names him.
That might be correct, though. I think you might be right. Okay, because I was trying to remember, yeah. But yeah, Edric Storm was sired on a girl who was she was a virgin. God knows if she was consenting or not. But it was in Stannis' wedding bed, on his wedding day.
And you said she was related to his Stannis' wife, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
So he had no choice but to acknowledge the kid. He is said to be the very image of my brother. If men were to see him and then look at Joffrey and Tommen, they could not help but wonder. And he's like, yeah, that's well and good, but I don't know if you realize that we don't have a TikTok that we can stick this kid's face on. So how are people gonna fucking see him? And he's just like, there's the rub.
Yeah, and he says, how are men to see him if he's at Storm's Inn? And that made me think, is that a place they can't go and get him? Or is the point just that you can't, parade him all through the country to prove, hey, this kid looks just like Robert? Storm's Inn is part of Stannis'...
That's the Baratheons'
They're the homestead, right? Mm-hmm. Is that where Renly went? That's where Renly was keeping?
I can't remember if he's there or if he's at Highgarden.
Well, I know he's on the move now as King Renly, on the road.
Right.
But his... I don't know what the fuck you call it, guys. His,
retinue?
That's not the word I was going for. Ooh. It's very good, though.
What were you going to say?
Just where he lives, his keep, his whatever.
Stronghold? Headquarters?
His headquarters.
His HQ?
I thought he was at Storm's Inn because Stannis was salty also about not getting Storm's Inn and being stuck at Dragonstone.
I think you're right. Look at how much better you are remembering shit than I am.
Listen, it's the upside down.
Oh, God, yeah. It's like, and what kills me is that I used to know this stuff. And somewhere along the brain, you see what I'm saying, you guys? Do you see what I'm fucking saying?
Let's just power through.
Jesus Christ. The RAM somebody needs to free some of it up.
Well, in your defense, you're reading a lot of books, you're covering a lot of shows.
That's true. I am doing many, many properties at once. But it's really nice that you remember stuff. It makes me feel like, she's paying attention. It's heartwarming.
See? All right, Jenna.
What?
That was one of those, it's really hard that I sing in perfect pitch. You're like,
backdoor compliment.
You're like low-key implying that all the times I forget stuff is because I'm not paying attention. I pay attention.
I'm not saying you don't pay attention. I'm saying that it's hard for me to believe that you pay attention. I know that you do. Intellectually, I recognize that it is difficult for you, and I know that you still are. But there is always a part of me that's like, but is she though? So it's helpful. That's all I'm saying. It's reassuring. And I am sure it's reassuring to my listeners who probably do a lot more screaming at their phones for this show than they do any other ones.
Aww.
Except maybe Dresden Files. I know plenty of people scream at their phones on that one.
Well, I'm sorry, y'all.
I'm not. It gives y'all something to do.
That was...
Go ahead and scream.
I'm sorry. I meant that sorry to sound way more shitty than it came out. That shit came out sincere by accident.
Oh, God.
No, I am sorry that people are yelling at their phone.
So then Davos is like, all right, so putting that aside, you said done in the light of the Lord. People aren't going to like that.
Yeah.
And Stannis is like, oh, you mean you don't like it. And Davos sidesteps right the fuck around it and is just like, maybe you could say instead. And this is when the whole thing comes up about his bird and that whatnot.
I love, he says, if you become devout now, smuggler. Mm-hmm. And Davos is like, that was my question to you, my liege.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I was like, oh shit, they sparring. But then...
This is why Stannis likes Davos, man.
I think so. Yeah. So, Davos is like, look, I don't have anything against this Lord of Light. I don't even know him. But I
know him like that.
I knew the gods that we burned this morning, as did your people, and you are taking something from them they might not even realize means as much to them as it does, just out of familiarity. These are the gods that they have known their entire lives. Davos is like, even I, who am not religious or devout, I've prayed to the mother for this, I've prayed to the smith for that. And Stannis comes back like, well, first of all, your wife gave you the sons. Do you pray to her? It was just...
Maybe you should.
Listen, I thought the same fucking thing. But I knew that wasn't his point, so I wasn't going to say anything. But I am really glad you said it. But he's like, yeah, it was just wood. And Davos was trying to explain to him, yeah, it's just wood, but when I was a kid and I was begging, sometimes the Septons would feed me. And Stannis is just like, but I feed you now. Like, he knows the point Davos is trying to make here. Absolutely. And he is just being so rigid, which is his way. That he just refuses to give an inch on any of that, or even just to acknowledge that, you know what? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's not doing that today.
This is like, Stannis doesn't want to play politics. And, like, I get it. It sucks. But guess what? You want to be a politician.
Basically.
So guess what? You got to play. You got to. And he doesn't see it that way because it is his God-given right. But no, that's not how it works, bud. Sorry. Love you.
Yeah.
Try again next week.
Yeah. And he gets really... What leads into the story about the bird is this really very personal... because one of the things Davos is saying is, like, they're not going to love you because you're doing this. And he is like, when the fuck have they ever loved me? You know, how am I going to be mad about losing something that I never even had? Mm-hmm. And it is... I don't know if I am reading too much into it, but again, it's a moment of being like, this man who is like so logical and rational, supposedly, right? And like not run by emotion, and such a stalwart of like doing the right thing because it's the right thing that you're supposed to do, is really got a lot of fucking feelings, about a lot of shit, you know, and it just I don't want to call it petty because I feel like that's kind of unfair, but he is clearly carrying a lot of baggage and feelings of being like either discounted or dismissed or not appreciated enough, you know, all of this like resentment, you know. Yeah. And it's palpable in this moment where he like yells. And then we go into the bird story, and he does mention a thing about Melisandre being you know, there's something there. Yeah. Which, I mean, clearly there is, because she didn't fucking die of poisoning. Yeah, so who knows? I mean, something's going on. There's also a quick mention, too, when she's doing the ceremony at the beginning of the chapter about her little locket that she wears around her neck. Oh, and what the fuck is that what's his face name? Patchface? Oh, yeah. And the little song he sings? Yeah. Under the sea, smoke rises and bubbles, and flames burn green and blue and black. Don't like it. Is that a portent? Is it? I feel like it's got to be, right? I mean, even if it isn't, that shit's gonna haunt your dreams. I mean, I can't pretend like, you know, I haven't seen the show. You guys already know. So, like, when I heard that, I was like, oh, is he talking about the Blackwater fight? Is that what he's talking about? But I don't know if, like, that's what that is. But that's what I thought of when I read that. Well, who knows? It's impossible to say. Certainly nobody has broken down every single thing Patchface has ever said and then cross-referenced it with events in the book on a website dedicated to fans. I'm certain that hasn't happened. Oh, my God. People are something else. They are, though. This is the thing about fandoms. It's like, on the one hand, oh, y'all are too much. And on the other hand, it's like, oh, bless you. I love how committed you are. This is part of the thing with, when you and I, for Unsober, we covered, what was the movie about fans who know how with Tim Allen. Fucking fuck. How can I not remember this name? With Tim Allen? Galaxy Quest. Oh, that's right. Oh, that was fun. And, you know, it's like these hyper fans who remember everything, and so they're able to, like, save their lives. That's really fun. How funny is it that I completely forgot that he was in that movie? Even though I really enjoyed that movie, I had to, like, divorce him from the whole thing. I completely understand. I was like, you're genuinely like, Tim Allen. I wouldn't watch no Tim Allen. How dare you insinuate that I watched something of his within this decade? I really don't like him. All right, so let's go to Theon now. All right, and let's not make a whole meal of it. I don't. I don't know why that got me so bad, but it really did.
I think maybe because of the blowjob.
This motherfucker.
So Theon is a fuckboy.
Yep.
And, like, he's so, he's got the wrong idea.
This, you know, part of me that is not, like, dead inside, feels a certain amount of sympathy because he is returning home after 10 years to hear him tell it, being held hostage and having a horrible time, which I did not get that impression that he was having a horrible time, but I also didn't get any POV chapters from him, so, you know. But he has definitely imagined this homecoming to be something very, very different. Mm-hmm. And despite what a jerk-off he is, there is something to finally returning home and expecting a certain kind of welcome. Now, he's expecting a very grand, like, you know, ordeal, you know. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was a bit much. But the welcome he did get was just a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
And I felt bad.
Yep.
I did feel bad about that, you know. Between his uncle, who is very different than how he remembered, because he's had this very either traumatic or, you know, spiritual, depending on your perspective, thing that happened to him. He's so different than what Theon remembers. The people that he remembers, a lot of them are gone now, you know. Nobody recognizes him when he gets off the ship. In the show, I think his sister meets him because he tries to fuck her. Right? They did that in the show.
Yes. They do that in the show.
Which, like, why? Because this is much better. But,
yeah, well, you know.
but, you know, so this very gloomy stranger who doesn't look happy to see him at all is who takes him home, and they put him in, you know, this room that is clear, has been...
So you're going to skip right over the captain's daughter.
Oh, I said what I said. I don't want to talk. All right, let's talk about it real quick.
Just because I feel like that really sets the tone for what he thinks of himself. Like, he even tells her that she should be grateful that he probably got her impregnated. Because he like, it's not every woman who can say that she is going to give birth to a king's bastard. Like, this is how much he really thinks that he's about to be hot shit.
Oh, yeah. He has filled her head for this journey of a very grand life that he's off to. Mm-hmm. And to the point where she's desperate to join him.
Yeah.
Like, if she knew where he was really going, you know, and how he was going to be received, she'd have wanted to just keep her ass on that ship.
It's interesting because, like, maybe, but also it sounds like she's anticipating getting beaten and abused by her dad, so it still might have been better.
That's true. That is a good point. She does finally admit to that.
Yeah.
There's this whole other gross current happening where Theon has basically flashed a bunch of gold around and has gotten this captain to, you know, be basically a gopher for him. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't buy the girl. He's very clear that she just kind of shows up in his room. But
no, she doesn't show up. He plies her with wine and, like, sweet talks her into it.
I thought he said she came to him.
He says she came willingly enough after a few cups of wine and some whispers in her ear.
Oh, that's terrible. But yeah, he's enjoying the fact that he's fucking this guy's daughter. Mm-hmm. And the guy can't do or say anything about it because he wants the money that Theon has promised. Yep. And It's gross for the dad. It's gross for Theon. It's just,
Everybody sucks here.
It's true.
So anyway, I just had to talk about her because he's just like, the whole thing is, she smiled at him. She looked kind of stupid when she smiled. She kept talking, so he made her suck his cock so that he wouldn't have to hear her stupid voice anymore. Like, that whole thing. Yeah. And then eventually, when he gets off not when he gets off, but when he gets off the ship, she is trying to embrace him, and he is basically like, you have my thanks. Yeah. And that's as much as he even says to her before he walks away. And it's just really, like, gross.
Yeah, at one point he's talking about how, in the old days you would have, like, your one wife, like your real wife, and then, like, your salt wife.
Yeah, your rock wife and your salt wife.
And the salt wife is, like, the side John. Mm-hmm. But now the old ways were ruined, and it, like, goes into this sort of thing about how Robert just, like, killed all the old ways and whatever. Yeah. But meanwhile, she's just like, well, I would be your salt wife. Like, that would be fine. She's like, I'd work in the kitchen. I can clean fish. And, ugh.
I know, right? Yeah. So anyway, I had to talk about that. And then his Uncle Aaron, who the one dude calls damp hair when he rolls up. Rashawn, can I just tell you about one of those, like, you ever have these embarrassing things where you read something and it doesn't occur to you how... I didn't realize that this was the combo of two words and that it was supposed to be damp hair. And so I made the PH and I heard damn fair in my head for like the full year of reading this before I did this with Brendan. And then he said damp hair and I was like, oh my God, damp hair! That makes so much more sense. Oh, y'all, I was not with it.
Having him sound like somebody from Lord of the Rings, like
a little bit, or like some French word or something. Yeah,
that is outstanding. Thank you for sharing that.
But yeah, he's like he's kind of gone through a weird patch face transformation himself.
Yeah, you cannot go underwater in these books.
Nothing good down there.
Nothing at all. Yeah, so he went down and came out a changed man, a priest, and he sees Theon and he's just like, ugh.
Yep.
Like, look at you.
And he asks immediately, do you worship their gods now? And Theon says no. And he's like, good, kneel down. And immediately, like, what's it called?
Basically baptizes him.
Baptizes, thank you.
I love, too.
I was thinking sanitize.
Oh, my God. It is time
immediately sanitize.
To wrap the whole podcast up. Not the episode, the whole podcast.
This panini press has really got to me, everybody.
When he asked him, does he worship the tree gods or whatever, Theon thinks to himself, like, I don't fucking worship nobody, but I'm not going to tell a priest that.
Yeah.
So, like, even in that moment, he's being kind of cagey and just like, yeah, no, I don't care about the Stark's gods. And then he has a moment, too, where he doesn't want to kneel because of his nice clothes.
The ground is muddy. And he's like, all right, well, I guess if I'm going to need this man's support, it's probably worth getting my britches a little bit dirty. And I'm like, wow, Theon, if you think this is a sacrifice...
Right, he really does.
You got some learning to do, bud.
Yeah, he really does feel like this is like, okay, these are hard times I've read about that I have to get through.
Well, I was warned about this by my mama, but I didn't know it was going to be this difficult. Oh, I guess I'll just bear it. But yeah, so eventually he just gets dropped off. Like, Aaron doesn't even come inside with him. He gets given over to a servant who's just going to lead him to the rooms he's staying in. And the rooms he's staying in are very bad.
Yeah. When he's, because he's trying to have a conversation with his uncle. His uncle is not here for, like, idle chit-chat. He answers a couple of questions, and he mentions that, because Theon is just like, oh, well, wait till I tell my dad about this great plan I have, and I'm the heir. And his uncle is like, but you got a sister, though. And Theon loses his shit. I'm the male heir. I won't be cheated of my rights, and, I warn you. His uncle was just like, you warn who now? About what? And Theon is just fucking stewing. He's so angry. And then when he finally does get, like, to his room, or at least to the castle anyway, he is just so filled with resentment about the way he was greeted, the way his uncle treated him on the ride, like the room that he's given. He's just fed up. He's so entitled and not getting any of the shit he feels entitled to. And it's sitting him low-key into, like, a little bit of a rage.
Yep. It's, I just love the whole, like, I'm his heir, and he's just like, we'll see. And also, he mentions his Uncle Euron here as well.
Oh, right.
And is looking around for his, like, creepy ship, and he doesn't see it.
Yeah, he's got a red ship.
Yeah, called the Silence.
Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
And his sister, Asha, is Yara in the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it was too close.
Yeah.
But Asha's away on her badass ship. And the way that, like, Aaron tells him is sort of like, well, you probably don't know this. And he's like, I know her ship. I know things. I'm just like, oh my God, Theon, would you just stop?
He's so, like... And you know what? It's probably not his fault, because, I mean, being in his situation, being, like, basically a hostage, being kept, in order to ensure that somebody behaves, is going to breed, I think, a lot of insecurity. And Theon is so insecure. Yeah. So what all his fucking whoring around is about. At one point, I don't know who he's yelling at in his brain, but he's talking about how great he is. And one of the things he says is, and I've bed more women than anybody. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Guy, what?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you think about, like, the dynamics of the Ironborn are feeling superior to the landlubbers on the Greenlands. And then the fact that he gets handed over to them is this, like, massive insult. But then he does absorb their ways to a point.
Yeah.
So he's over with the Starks at Winterfell, feeling superior to them and sort of snide inside of his own head about them. But he is still not part of where he came from the way that he imagines he still is.
Right.
And you see it a few times, like just Aaron asking him to kneel. And then the reaction that he has to his admittedly very inhospitable rooms. But, like, when he goes to see his dad is sitting in a dank, musty, shitty room and seems fine with it.
Yep.
So it's not like it comes across as if it's a purposeful slight. But
that's just how this place is.
Exactly. And he just doesn't realize that's what this place is.
Yeah.
Because he's so disconnected by now.
Yep. I think that's... I mean, when he shows up to his father, the way he's dressed and that he's wearing this fucking gold chain... Like, and even when his dad calls him out on it, he immediately remembers and is like, oh, I fucked up. I forgot about this. Like, like it's a moment of him really realizing, fuck, like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. you know. And again, I don't like to have these moments of sympathy for Theon. You know, when they happen, I feel weird about them.
Same.
But, you know, we're talking about somebody that was taken from their home when they were 10, you know, and being removed from your culture like that under those circumstances, and then being raised and sort of forced to assimilate. And not even forced to assimilate, because sometimes assimilation happens just by immersion, right? Like you don't consciously decide, okay, I'm going to throw everything away and just be how these people want me to be. But you do it as a matter of survival. And the realization that he has no connection to where he comes from anymore. Yeah. And we know from the show that is going to, that insecurity, and that once he realizes how far away he's become, that desire to close that gap makes him really susceptible to all kinds of like manipulation. You know?
Yeah, I really love the detail even of like he has to cross this really narrow, rickety bridge to see his dad. And it just, he's looking at it like, oh my fucking God, and remembers that he as a child ran across this bridge. It was nothing. And he tells himself like, yeah, well, you know, kids don't know shit can hurt you. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, true. But also, you a pussy. Yeah. And they can tell. Yeah. And like, he's not really, but he is though, in his way. So yeah, his dad just is like, he says, did Ned Stark dress you like his darling daughter?
Oh, man.
And then asks,
cold-blooded.
Right? And then asks, what about this chain? Did you pay the iron price for it or the gold price? And that's when he's like, oh, I forgot this fucking shit. And his dad yanks the chain off of his neck and throws it in the brazier. And it's just like, oh, yeah, I know this is made of literal gold, but it's worthless because you are pathetic.
Yep. Yikes. Meanwhile, earlier when Theon is thinking about like the way that the culture of the islands has changed, and being forced to like try to fish and being forced to try to farm on this like raggedy ass soil, one of the things that they mine are like iron and tin and something else, like necessary metals, but not the kind of things that bring riches. You know, it's not like gold and shit. Yeah. But then he has this gold chain in his hand. It's probably worth more than they've pulled out of their mines in who knows how long. And he just throws it in the fire because it's not worth anything. You know, in their sense of what's, you know, what kind of currency they value.
Yeah, this whole thing is, so I think I've told you this actually. The first time that I read this with Brendan, I guess the second time I read it, but the first time he did it for the show, somebody had written in and been like, what do you think of the Ironborn? Is that what they're called? I wonder why that sounded so wrong to my ears when I said it. I was just like, that can't be it. But he's like, what do you think of their attitude about having to work for everything you get? And I was like, work for it? They take it. Somebody else worked for it, and they just come in and fucking steal it. And it turned out that the person asking was this like rabid libertarian. And I was like, oh, okay, now it makes sense that you don't understand the actual thing that's happening here, because that's not it. They are definitely...
God. Well, Natasha, billionaires work very hard and long hours.
They provide jobs. We should be grateful to them.
Oh, my God.
Did you see that statue of Elon Musk?
No.
Oh, my God, it's really bad.
Why does he have a statue?
It was unveiled somewhere in New York recently, and I don't remember. I think it might have been in Brooklyn. But basically, it's just, like, not flattering. And everybody is sort of cracking up over it.
I will have to be sure to go find that.
What happened?
It was like this large bang inside my door.
Bang.
Yeah.
I thought you said bag, like somebody chucked a bag at your window or something. Guys, look, I'm not okay. It's fine. I'll be okay. I'll get there eventually. So, to wrap this one up, because we pretty much have gone through what happens here, Theon presents Balon with the proposal from Robb. A proposal that Theon is very proud of.
He's so proud. I love that Balon already knows that there's a fucking proposal in his fucking pocket before it happens. It calls him like, oh, you're like a little messenger boy. And he's like, no, it was my message. It was my idea.
And the whole thing is, if you do this, this, and this, I will give you a crown. And he's like, oh, really?
Bad choice of words. And if Theon had remembered anything about where he came from and his father, he would know that. And he would have caught that the way Stannis caught that fucking, that his shit in his letter.
But yeah, he just says, if somebody gives something to you, they can take it back. So no, I will not be fucking accepting this generous gift from him, and he can suck it. I'll take my crown, as Euron Redhand did 5,000 years ago. Theon edged backward, away from the sudden fury in his father's tone. Take it then, he spat, his cheeks still tingling. Oh, I forgot his dad whacks him across the face. Call yourself king of the Iron Island. No one will care until the wars are over and the victor looks about and spies the old fool perched off his shore with an iron crown on his head. And Balon's like, well, you got some balls. I'll give you that.
Right. This is what gets like a little nod of approval from his father. This sort of like telling him to go fuck himself, which is, it's so dysfunctional. But what are you gonna do? But and he tells Theon that hey, basically I've got a plan. We're not going after Casterly Rock, and I'm not gonna fucking. He keeps calling King Robb the boy. King Robb the boy.
I love it. But capital B on the boy because of respect.
And he just says, but we might take Lannisport, but we would never keep it. And he's like, I've got my eyes set on something else. And as soon as Theon asks where, he realizes, or as soon as he thinks to himself where, he realizes he knows. But they don't tell us in this chapter. Is it the Riverlands? Is it River Run? I don't know.
I think so.
I feel like that's got to be it.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we didn't. Oh my God, he's trying to convince his father about like how good Robb is doing, and how it would, you got to throw in with him because he's, there's no way he's not going to win. Oh.
Yeah. This whole thing is just, it's really painful. I always admire when a writer can make somebody despicable and sympathetic in some ways.
Yeah.
It's a tough line to walk. And like you've said, it makes you uncomfortable to read because you don't want to feel sorry for this person, But everybody has their shit. That doesn't change the fact that they are shit. But, you can still acknowledge that they have their own battles. So, all right. Is there anything else you wanted to mention? Are you trying to find that River Run thing? Or the Riverlands thing?
What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. You had said something earlier that you were trying to remember. But it sounded like you were flipping through your book.
Oh, I am flipping through the book, but I don't remember what I did remember.
We are a fucking pair tonight. Man.
Hey, I remember Shireen's name. So
you're more on top of everything than me right now.
Tune in next week when things are back in their natural order.
Maybe. All right. Well, I'm going to say hi to new patrons real quick. This past week, we got Tommy Ross, Astrid, Simon Peterson, Shad Stockton, Raven Puff Quinn, and Jonathan Finch. So welcome to all of you. Thank you very, very much for becoming patrons. I love you all. If you are $5 and up, you can access the Mistborn podcast, which I'm doing with Miles. And we just did a live read today on Crowdcast where he read me a chapter on the air, and that was really fun. And because there's a lot of like reveals in the Mistborn series, a lot of like little twists that get set up that you don't even realize. It's not like a mystery. It's more that you didn't realize there was a secret, and then all of a sudden he drops a bomb, and you're like, wait, what? So, yeah, Mistborn has been really fun. We're on the 3rd book right now. And if you are $10 and up, you get that postcard with the brains on it. If you are $20 and up, you get to come to twice a month unsober episodes with me and Rashawn. And the last one that we did, we talked about nails, which probably a lot of people don't care about, but I promise it's super fun. And we don't have a topic for the next episode, but, you know, we'll figure it out. I feel like I came up with something I feel like I said we should do an episode on TikTok.
You did
but I don't
that.
know what we would do other than be like, this guy's really good, this is funny.
That's exactly what we talked about. We were like, as much as we want to do that, like, how would that translate to an episode?
Yeah.
But,
so, yeah, we have to come up with some stuff, but every time we do an unsober, it's wildly different. Like, other ones that we've done in summertime are like, you know, swimming or barbecues as topics, and we just sort of talk about what our favorite things in the summer are. Or we did one that's one that I remember enjoying a lot, which was our dream house. And if we had all the money, what we would put in our ideal house. And that was a really fun one. And I feel like at some point we really do have to do have we done one on weed? I
don't think so. I feel like we
should do
talk
a weed
about
one.
weed a lot, but we've never done one on weed.
Yeah, maybe we should.
One of my favorites was the one we did on space, because it turned out we had a lot to say about that shit. I had no idea how much we would have to say and how interested we both were. We just kept being blown away by different tidbits that we would Google.
Yeah, we go and look up facts, guys, and we're not ready. Oh my God, we did one on old commercials, and I researched the Noid, and I was not prepared.
Oh my God,
for the Noid lore.
I pulled that shit right out. I was like, this is what the Noid is. I could not believe how accurate it was.
Guys, there were 3 video games made with the Noid. Why? He's so weird and creepy looking. Who does this appeal to? We definitely did a weed episode. Yeah, we did.
We did?
Yep.
Damn.
That is really funny.
Where's the really?
God, I am sort of realizing... I went to make a topic and I was like, oh, maybe we could talk about swimming for this one because it's summertime. And I was typing it in and it auto-filled for me in Crowdcast. And I was like, wait, what? And I went and looked and we had done swimming already. So I am predictable and starting to circle back around to shit. We've been doing Unsober for 3 years. So
has it really been 3 years already?
It's almost, yeah.
Fuck.
I know, right?
God, it does not feel like it's been that long at all. That's insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of Unsober episodes. There's a playlist of all of them on the website for people who are of the $20 tier. And the list is getting so ungainly now. I'm I really do have to go in and divide that up by year because it's just really long.
Wow.
I'm looking back at the first one.
The first one I remember like it was yesterday.
Summertime.
That was the first one?
That's what it's... Unless it was not on Patreon, which may be... So it's... Oh my God, Rashawn, the first episode that is listed on Patreon, as far back as it'll go, was June 9th, 2018.
Jesus.
So we are just past 3 years.
Oh my God. The first episode I feel like we did was the one about staying home and being sick.
Being sick, you're right.
And it was such a nice one. And we did it in the middle of the day. It wasn't a late night Crowdcast live thing, I don't think. And neither one of us, we were both sober. And it was free because it was we let everybody listen to it.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why it's not popping up. Maybe I didn't list it as an unsober because regardless, guys, like,
oh God, yeah.
that example, being sick, that's the kind of stuff we do. I was sick that week.
It was so fun, though.
It was. We talked about, like, well, obviously ginger ale will
Right.
heal all wounds.
You got to lay on the couch and watch Price is Right.
You got to eat a sleeve of saltines.
Absolutely. And then that meme just went around recently again, and I'm like, that was us.
That's how it works. I'm so glad that we can all agree. The same rules apply everywhere, apparently. Anyway, become a patron, patreon.com/unspoiled. And also, Owen and I are covering Loki for our wedding fundraiser. And you can buy episodes for $1 each at unspoiledpodcast.com. Just click on the Loki banner on the page. And also, I've posted the whole Avatar and the whole Legend of Korra playlist for $15 each, which is like 50 cents an episode. So if you have been wanting to listen to those, but it was just like a pain to buy each individual episode or whatever, you can get the whole playlist for like 50% off almost. So go do that. Help us pay for our wildly extravagant wedding, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Well, thank you all again so much for listening. We love you very much. Hope you have been enjoying the show. And we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.